It's time for today's edition of Elko Live and our time to go outdoors with Nevada Department of Wildlife Conservation Educator Julie Gabrielson is in studio. And wow, catch our breath, Julie. We are back at it full swing in September.
And September just left us. It didn't even give us a chance to get to know it. It just left us.
Right, in the dust, for sure.
It did. And our programming says the same thing. You know, our conservation education team has been really busy through already with school starting. All of our school programming is in full swing. So much so that their calendar is pretty much filled for the fall. And we're already starting to put people on the schedule for our spring semester programming. If you've got any questions about any of the programming that we offer for the in-school programs, you can call Nicole St. John at 775-777-2391. We also have a big event happening this weekend. It's National Public Lands Day on Saturday. And so in support of that, we have a special volunteer project happening at Cave Lake. It'll be a fish habitat build. And what that is it's building and placing habitat structures in the lake bed. And that's also all in preparation for it to start filling back up after the construction's done. And they're scheduling for it to reopen in 2025. So that's just, a couple months away that's going to happen. So we've got to get some of those structures in the lake bed for fish to be able to, have their own habitat and hide behind once we get that lake stocked back up again. In addition to the habitat build and placement, we're also going to do just general Cave Lake area cleanup. So it is a family event. So bring your kids out, enjoy the day with it. Lunch will be provided by Nevada State Parks. For more information on that, you can call Heath Carell down in Ely at 775-289-1655. Again, that is this Saturday from 9 to about 3 at Cave Lake State Park down in Ely.
Well, just a quick refresher, Julie. The reason that was Cave Lake closed for a while, did they have a die-off?
Yes, Cave Lake, it wasn't a die-off, but they had a dam failure. And so they've been rebuilding that entire dam. I don't even know how many years it's been at this point, but they are expecting it to reopen next spring.
Well, that is fantastic. It's always good news when you can get something back on top. So, Yes, thanks to NDOW and all the other would-be volunteers. Hopefully you can make it out on Saturday. And then here's something fun. Everybody looks forward to the Pumpkin Festival, and you guys are going to be there.
We will. Yep. The Pumpkin Festival is Saturday, October 12th and Sunday the 13th, and that's out at the Lamoille Grove. It's 10 to 4 both days. Come by and say hello to us, as well as meeting some of our dedicated volunteers. And you can learn more about Nevada's wildlife if you'd like. We'll have skins and skulls, as well as some tracks and some more things there that the kids can actually get some hands-on learning with, as well as plenty of handouts for the adults to take out of there as well. We also have a fall hunter education class scheduled for October 19th. You can register online at register-ed.com. Again, that's October 19th for a fall hunter education class. And our progressive fly tying, that class is going to kick up again soon. Normally in November sometime is when that kicks off for the season. It is a progressive fly tying class. So every week, with the exception of some holiday weeks, the group meets and they learn a new fly tying skill. And it's actually a new fly that you learn with each progressive week. And each week it's you get to take home 3 new flies, essentially, usually a different size hook for each one of them, but it is the same fly that's done in each individual week. Details and dates are still in the works for the class. We're working that out with our volunteers, so we'll get that information out as soon as we get that dialed in. For more information, you can call Nicole Hamlin at 775-777-2388.
Perfect. That's an exciting, and I hear a lot of great things about those classes, just the new friendships that are formed and the great way that they encourage even new people.
It is, and it's a great way to get involved into it without actually going out and purchasing all of the equipment to do so, because that can be pretty costly at times. So this way we kind of get your hands wet, not your feet wet, but we get your hands wet on this one. We provide all of the materials, all of the equipment, and let you and the instructions to get you working through that and decide if that's something that you want to continue doing or not on your own.
Cool. Well, speaking of mentoring, here's another neat opportunity.
Yes, it's our mentored Youth Pheasant Hunt. This is going to be a free event for youth only. It's going to happen November 8th and 9th, and it's going to be based out of Beowawe. Youth hunters between 12 and 17 years old, they must have completed their hunter education and have a valid hunting license. It is limited registrations, and it's going to be it's a small number that we'll be able to have out there, because we will have mentors out there, not only just experienced hunters and educators, but also mentors with their dogs to help teach these students how to hunt the pheasant in the field using a bird dog as well as without a bird dog. There's also going to be an education component with it, that both parts of it are, you have to take the education component the night before the hunt as part of the hunt itself. You must attend both. The registration will open October 1st, so you can watch our Register-Ed and social media for those details, because that's going to open up here pretty soon. But that's our first hunt of any kind like that out in this region, and we're really excited to get that going. And it's we've got some great partners with NGM, and the NBU Midas group is also a big part of it, and Elko Bighorns Unlimited, some really great partners in helping us to make this happen.
You may have mentioned the age, and I may have missed it, but it is for a specific group.
Yes, 12 to 17-year-old only. Yep.
Okay. And this is really an important emphasis too, because Julie, in case people listening aren't familiar, the number of people who hunt, it happens to be waning, and this is a way to encourage outdoors, getting outdoors, sportsmanship for both men and women.
And it's helping to create a comfort level with it, because a lot of people, they don't know how to do it. So some people are afraid to ask. Some people don't know who to ask. So this is kind of just a good way to really expose them to it, both on a very safe side of it, with a lot of really quality education behind it, as well as creating that comfort zone for them, and giving them a space to where they can ask, okay, where can I do more? Where can I find more and get more information that way?
Fantastic. Julie Gabrielson with Nevada Department of Wildlife is our conservation educator. And, speaking of kind of passing it on, legacy, tradition, NDOW appreciates volunteers. We do, and we are always looking for more volunteers. We've got so many different options that a volunteer can come into the agency and help us with, from, birding to hunter education and angler education, and, the fly tying, and teaching somebody how to shoot a bow, or somebody how to, cook, their fresh game meat in Dutch ovens. I mean, there's so many different variables that we can come up with for some really great classes to provide for the public. So if you have any interest in volunteering, a special passion that involves the outdoors, give us a call and let us know. And we can, if we've already got a program that you want to just be a part of, by all means, jump in. We can help you out with that. But if you've got an idea for one as well, we want to hear it. And so get a hold of us. Again, that's Nicole Hamlin at 777-2388. You can also call me, and I can help work through that with you as well. Thank you, Julie. We are underway with hunting, and there are several different seasons that are coinciding. It's fall. It is, and we've got a special youth upland game season that actually opens this weekend. It's open from the 28th of September until the 6th of October. It's open to hunters 17 or younger. All youth must be accompanied by an adult who's at least 18 years old, though. This really is a great opportunity that allows the kids to get out for a low-pressure, mild weather hunt for birds that are typically pretty cooperative at that point anyways. We've also got the upland game opener October 12th, which includes the chucker quail, Hungarian partridge, and you can find those more information on all of those in the small game guides that are available in the office. I'm glad you mentioned the guides, because it's important to look those over in advance of every season, even if you're experienced, right? It is. Regulations change, and sometimes it's just a small little, piece of that regulation. And so it's important to familiarize with them and make sure that you know what has been changed and what hasn't. So, Julie, what's the latest on CWD? Nevada still remains free of CWD, thank goodness, but it is present in neighboring states. So state law dictates that Nevada hunters
that hunt out of state are not allowed to bring any portions of the spine or the brain matter across state lines back into the state of Nevada. It was recently detected pretty close to our border in Bishop, California, and we have initiated mandatory samples in that western part of the state. Numerous check stations will be manned throughout deer season. Ely Love Station, the Austin Junction, which is at SR 305 and US 50, as well as the Biawawi Rest Area right on I-80 between Carlin and Battle Mountain. There's also a self-sampling option. Basically, you should have received an email that offers that kit. You just need to reach out to us using the QR code or getting a hold of us, and we can get that kit out to you. That kit also includes instructional video and all the paperwork and materials that you need to do so. And you can always bring your game into one of the offices, and we can do the sample for you on site. It is important, though, that if that is the role that you're taking, you call us ahead of time and make sure that we've got a biologist in the office on that particular time and day, so that because they're the ones that are experienced at taking that sample.
All right, Nevada Department of Wildlife. And then you are relying on help as usual from those who are in the field. Great eyes in the field to report, road problems, conditions, but you're also looking at something specific about guzzlers.
Yeah, and there's a lot more users in the field than there are us as employees. So we really do rely on our folks out there, our hunters and adventurers that get out there. Guzzlers, the past 2 winters and recent storms have caused some damage to some of those guzzlers, and we want to know about those. So if you come across any of them that have any structural issues, fence problems, any kind of concerns on the water levels that you might be seeing in them, give us a call and let us know. You can call the main office 777-2300 and report that, and then we can just give us a location and which guzzler it is that you're seeing, and then we can go out there and check on it. Also, bighorn sheep and domestic sheep interactions, we do want to hear about that. If you're seeing bighorn sheep where domestic sheep should be, or vice versa, domestic sheep where the bighorn sheep should be, we really want to know about that. Those pathogens carried by domestic sheep, they tend to be fatal to the bighorn sheep. So we really are promoting the separation of those 2 species. So we want to see if they're wandering in areas that they should not be in.
All right. You can report that information directly to Department of Wildlife. You will have law enforcement out, and they're there mostly to help people to just create a safe environment whenever possible.
They are. They really are. But they get a lot of calls. We've got a lot of different things that they get called out on. Right now, there's getting a slight increase in calls regarding predatory animal sightings. So coyotes in more residential areas, maybe some bobcats. So just be cognizant of your pets and your livestock. Just be aware of what's going on around them, and make sure that you're just being diligent with the care of your animals as well. They're passing through. I mean, it's just part of what they do. You're going to see them here and there. It's going to happen. Also, knowing your target when you're out on any of your hunts, species identification, as well as having multiple animals in your sight window when you're taking a shot, is really important to know what it is that you're hunting and how many you have a tag for, which is usually only 1. So make sure that you don't have multiple big game animals in your sight window, because that just increases your chance of accident. There recently was an event up in Idaho, and I know it's being investigated, where a private bird dog was out hunting with his owner and was shot mistakenly as a coyote. So somebody took that, that bird dog, and thinking that it wasn't something that it really was. So it's really just important. It doesn't go just with big game. It goes across the board. That we've got hunters and users of the resource of all kinds out there right now, whether they're hunting or not. So just be very aware of who is out there and what is out there that you might encounter.
And I'm sure people learn this in Hunter Ed, Julie, but you're still supposed to wear some sort of blaze orange or something, right, in the field?
Not in Nevada.
Oh, because that explains why I don't see that. Because growing up in Utah, it was all about the orange, and I just see so much camo here.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they just put it on in the field.
Yeah, we don't have that regulation here.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that you can't. And a lot of bird hunters, you'll see orange on their packs, or orange on their dogs. but it isn't required.
Okay. All right. So again, that just means extra care in knowing your target, because you're the one holding the firearm, so it's your responsibility.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Correct.
Speaking of, there are some other rules, if you will, while hunting, including etiquette on those all-terrain vehicles.
Yes, it is the hunter's responsibility to know and understand the legalities of BLM access roads and private property boundaries. So trespassing is where that comes in. Landowners' responsibility in Nevada is to have their properties officially and legally marked and posted to prevent the trespassing onto the private property that a landowner can legally deny access onto or through. It's not NDOW law enforcement's decision or authority to determine the legality of each of those roadways or or public land areas. So it's really important to do your homework. And if you're going into an area that you might be hitting some private property, pay attention to that. Go knock on doors and say hello and ask for access and, what what the landowner's actual rules are for his own property as well for that access. And
I understood too from the BLM that there was an app you can download that shows kind of some of the private public boundaries.
There is. There's the Onyx is probably the most common one that you hear about. There are a couple others, and it stays pretty current and up to date when it comes to those boundary lines and what's private and what's not. So by all means download it. It's fairly affordable to use that app on a yearly basis and know what areas you're going into, and it shows it through checkerboards, and you have different layers that you can put on it, showing you federal lands versus state lands versus private lands, and it some of it's color coded and boundaried out.
All right. And then, of course, heading into the height of October, it's always important to remind people about the safety of using their firearms.
Yes, loaded firearms and vehicles, including any and all designated, the OHVs, like an ATV, a side-by-side, snow machines, any of those, motorcycles. You cannot have a loaded long gun in or on any of those. Then what that means is you cannot have a round in the chamber. They can be in the magazine, they just cannot be in the chamber.
All right. And let's see. And that these accidents, I guess I was just thinking about, Julie, they usually happen in a hunting party. So everybody can help each other, right? Everybody can kind of just help each other, check out the weapons, make sure they're not loaded.
Absolutely. Hold each other accountable.
Exactly.
By all means, hold each other accountable. There's been times that I've had hunting partners in the past that did something that just made me feel just uncomfortable enough to where I never hunted with them again. Even despite, holding them accountable, it was just enough to where it just wasn't worth my sanity, let alone my safety, to continue hunting with them. And so it's really important that we hold each other accountable, when it comes to that, and make sure that everybody's doing things to keep everybody safe.
Great, Julie. Thanks. And just keeping those standards, again, for everybody, keeping them safe. And then you've got, a reminder when you sort of mention you feel like something's just not right. It's in the field, not necessarily within your party, but obviously there are ways that you can report things to get some attention. Yeah.
We've got our Operation Game Thief, which is the phone number for that is 800-992-3030. We've also got our NDOW Tip app, which is an app that you can download onto your phone. Some keys for using these particular options to report anything that you see out in the field. First of all, never approach people in the field that you might be in question of something that they've done. If you see something, if and when you do observe something that you feel is illegal, whether it's regarding hunting, trapping, fishing, get as much information as safely as you possibly can. License plates, some way to identify the subjects is really, really important. So, pictures help if you can get a long distance picture through a scope or, again, that license plate, vehicle descriptions, descriptions of the people involved, time, place, the location is also very helpful. What type of a violation you might think that you have seen. Those are all really key for helping our game wardens follow up on whatever the issue is that you think you might have seen.
All right, Julie, thank you. Again, there's an NDOW Tip app that can be downloaded, or the Operation Game Thief number is always a good one.
Yep.
And then we're also seeing a lot of different species on the move here in the Great Basin.
It's that time of year. We start getting colder and they start moving, right? So bat migration, we're still seeing bats migrating. I was out wandering the neighborhood last weekend even, and one of my neighbors had one, just kind of perched up under her eave, just hanging out for a day or two, and it moves on. I mean, and that's very, very typical. If you see them on your property, they might be in, under your eaves, in trees, even on your screens. Just let them be. They're in that process of moving, and they're just looking for a resting spot. And when they're ready, they're going to move on. When to be concerned is if they're on the ground, and especially during the daytime, if you see them on the ground. That's really important at that point. Don't let your pets touch it. Don't touch it. Just let it be. Give us a call, and then we can help determine if it's a bat that we need to be concerned about. One thing to remember is that very, very few bats actually have rabies. So it's not something to, obviously we want to take precautions, but we usually only, end up with 1 to 2 in the Elko area that come back positive. But preventative, just don't touch it. And let us, give us a call.
Okay. And there's something cool that you guys are doing. You have a new version of the Nevada Bat Plan?
Yeah. So if you're interested in learning more about the bats in Nevada, you can keep an eye out for this document. It's at the Nevada Bat Working Group website, which is pacwestbats.org, and that's PAC West Bats. And you should be able to go in there, and you should be able to find that document in there, and it can tell you a little bit more about what we're seeing, how many we're seeing, any issues that we might have with them as well.
I know a lot of future biologists are encouraged by this kind of activity. There are probably some young scientists listening, and you can get so much cool information about the great wildlife species in our backyard with groups and sites just like this.
You can.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's really neat that we keep coming up with more and more of these resources for people to be able to refer to.
Yeah. And of course, one of our favorite subjects, and that is getting out and enjoying some fishing, Julie.
Yeah. And fall stocking will begin next week is when we'll kick that off again. We are still seeing some harmful algae bloom at some of the waters. The task force is still monitoring some of the area reservoirs. As of last week, new advisories were still being issued for some waters, even though overall water quality is in fact improving. South Fork has improved. Other than the fact a few back areas that are back in the coves, they still are seeing some of the algae blooms back there, but it is still improving. And then visitors to Wild Horse should still use caution with their dogs and rinsing any of the fish that they keep. We're also seeing water levels lower than normal for the fall time at Angel Lake, and that's really due to the repairs needed on the dam. The lake is still accessible to anglers, though, at this point.
All right. And then trout fishing's only going to get better.
It is. It's going to continue to improve for the fall bite with longer, cooler nights and lower water temperatures, especially as we start moving into October. It's going to be really nice. We did get a report from an angler that was up at Island Lake, I believe, this last weekend, and had a really, really good time out there fishing. I can't remember what lure she was using, but she had a good time and sent us some great pictures.
Oh, that's wonderful when you get that kind of input. And listeners, you can do that too, and kind of share the joy. NDOW has a great social media pages and another wonderful website that you can check out.
Another resource, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we, any of the area waters, and not just, Elko area, but statewide waters, you can go to fishnv.com and you can research what water it is that, if you've got a specific water that you want to research. You could also research through the filter by the type of fish that you're looking for. What kind of bait they might be hitting on. It's a really great interactive website that you can go to find out more about where you can fish, for what and when and how.
fishnv.com. Put that one, certainly download that one and pick it as a favorite too. And I was going to ask, I know we're going to move on to the operations, but how did the float tube fishing go at Angel Lake? Any word on that?
Yeah, they had a great time. I know
Good.
that. I didn't hear on just how many people caught fish and how many people were skunked, but just being out there, at Angel Lake in September is just an amazing time to be out there and having a good time and learning something new. But I know everybody really enjoyed it. I just didn't catch, no pun intended, I didn't catch how many were caught and successful on landing a fish with their new float fly fishing skills. Yes.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be able to pass that on, because people do often ask me, I wonder how that, how is that going? And because you can tell people are intrigued. So we just want to get them there. If they have any questions, they can always call you, Julie.
I actually love float tube fishing. I am not a fly fisherman. I've tried it and I can do it. It's just not my preferred, way of fishing, but I really enjoy being out in my float tube and fishing. I typically am a bottom fisher, or close to it anyways, depending on where I'm at on the lake. And there's something about being out in a float tube that is just so peaceful and
hanging
just
out
relaxing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I've mentioned before, I'm a bobber and a book kind of fishing person. So it's like, oh, is there a fish on my line?
Yeah.
Yes, it's been on there for a while. So on to operations.
Yeah. So first come, first serve tags it's happening. People are picking up those first come, first serve tags all week long. You can pick those up in the NDOW office, or you can have it shipped to you if you win one of them on that first come, first serve site. Beware of those season dates though, and picking which shipping method is going to be best for you. If your tag is going to be, 2 or 3 days out, it might be best that you make a plan to pick it up in the NDOW office. Unfortunately, if you pick to have it shipped to you and then realize you need to have it picked up, there is a charge for a duplicate tag at that point. So make sure that you're picking that when you pick up one of those first come, first serve tags. Also, return tags, those must be received in the office at least 1 day prior to the opening day of your season. You can download those forms at ndowlicensee.com. You can also pick one up at the NDOW office and email it back to the address listed. But again, we have to have that in hand by, at least 1 day prior to the opening of the tag. Duplicate tags, fill out the form and you do pay a $10 payment for that reprint. That does need to be done in person, and you do need to bring some form of ID. So bring in your driver's license with you when you do that.
I saw that the Wildlife Advisory Board locally, they're looking at, I think, isn't NDOW considering maybe a whole digital process too, to download a lot of things to have on your phones?
They are. I don't know the depth of it, but I have heard that they are starting to look into some of that.
So, by the way, if you are listening and interested, we do have a local Wildlife Advisory Board, Julie, and I know that this board is really important because we're one of the most prime areas for hunting, fishing, wildlife watching. And so the input of local citizens is really important on this advisory board.
It is. And those advisory board meetings are public meetings. So we do encourage you to attend those and speak your mind. Let us know what you're seeing out there, what you're feeling, any suggestions that you have. And definitely attend those meetings and get involved.
All right, Julie, thank you so much for everything you bring, as you do every time. Nevada Department of Wildlife, our local conservation educator is Julie Gabrielson, and we appreciate you being here. Thanks.
Thanks again for having me.